Thank you so much for joining us, Senator. Do you think that the US should force Zelensky to make peace?
Look, I have faith that if President Trump is reelected, that they can figure out how to make peace. After 2 years of really going nowhere, hundreds of thousands of people have died. We should be giving every ounce of effort we have to figuring out a peace. I think to say to force him, that may be a little strong for me, but I don't think that we can continue to fund this at $100 billion a year. We've given them $200 billion a year, $200 billion in total so far. I still think I would even back up the context why we ended up here. We ended up here because we have a weak president in the White House. When I talk to NATO leaders privately, the first thing they ask me is why did the Americans leave Afghanistan the way that they did? If that had not happened, Russia never invades Ukraine. So we need a strong president in the White House.
So this stems from American weakness as to why Russia invaded Ukraine in the first place. Do you also blame NATO expansion, as some people have in this conference today?
I think that NATO expansion forced Putin's hand in many ways. Now, did he just use that as an excuse? He saw a weak president. He saw how we ran with our tail between his legs out of Afghanistan. Did he use that as an excuse? I don't know. Certainly, I understand is that Russia for centuries has been has lauded land. They want power, they want to rule the world. China wants to own the world. Russia wants to rule the world. But I do think. When he saw Finland then coming in as well, that he's starting to feel that pressure and everything crushing in on him as well. I'm very concerned about this 10-year security agreement that Biden has unconstitutionally signed with Ukraine, though.
When you say Russia wants to rule the world, what do you mean by that? Do they not have their own sort of spheres of influence that they want to be in with Ukraine? They have a long history with Ukraine. Ruling the world seems slightly hyperbolic.
Look, I'm a little bit of a student of history. When I meet foreign leaders, what I tell them is, look, I want you to succeed. I want your countries to succeed. I'm not a nation builder. I want no part of ruling your country. If we can help you, great. If we can do business, great. But what I've seen through history is Russia being very expansionist. I grew up in the Cold War. I think that they annexed all those nations to form the USSR. I think, way beyond what normal countries would think about.
But the world is slightly different from Eastern Europe. Do you see what I mean? I suppose they were expanding to the east as well, and maybe ruling the world seems slightly over the top. But do you think all US military aid should be cut to Ukraine?
I think it should be limited. I think it should be, again, the emphasis should be on a peace treaty. I don't think we should spend another dime in Ukraine until we secure our own southern border.
Do you think that the NATO summit, obviously there's a NATO summit here in Washington, D.C., do you think that the US should pull out of NATO?
Should do what?
Pull out of NATO. Get out of NATO.
Okay. No, I don't. Look, NATO has served the world very well. I think the bigger emphasis is who's paying for what. Again, when I meet with these NATO leaders, the first thing they ask about is the Afghanistan departure. The second thing is, oh my gosh, they're going to have to spend more money if President Trump is reelected. Well, darn right. Look, we've made our commitment in Europe. We have over 100,000 troops in Europe. We have an unlimited numbers of jets and tanks there as well. Our soldiers, my son of whom is one, is on the front line in Poland, and then we have many soldiers in the Baltic nations as well. So we've made our commitment. France has an economy twice the size of Russia's. Germany, an even bigger economy. Nations like that need to do their fair share. America spending 3.5% of their GDP on military. France spending 1.9%. So despite France's economy being twice the size of Russia, Russia has 5 times more jets and tanks. So France needs to take care of themselves more so. I'm happy to have a presence there, but I'm telling you, the bigger threat to America is China. So we probably need to start going more of our resources in that direction. We don't have enough money in this country when we're living on debt, when we're borrowing money to send to Ukraine. It makes no sense to me.
Do you think that the French and perhaps the Germans as well have a kind of arrogance? They believe that they can take the US for granted. I'm thinking about Macron and Olaf Scholz.
Yeah, I think that their actions would show that. that they're as long as that we're the stooges that we are. They think that we're stooges, that we'll keep paying the lion's share of NATO. Why wouldn't they let us keep doing that? Much like we're this rich, aloof grandfather that doesn't know where his money is going sometimes. So I think we have been taken for granted, but at the same time, I have the fullest respect for all the European nations. And just as they believe in their own country first, I believe in America first. But I'm rooting for them. I want to be a good trade partner. I want to be a good neighbor, all those types of things. But they need to pick it up a little bit. They need to stop whining, stop crying. They need to do their share of the work as well.
The UK elected a new Prime Minister last week, a socialist leader, Keir Starmer. He's going to be at the NATO summit today. What do you make of Keir Starmer?
Look, I've got enough problems here in America. I don't follow every hiccup in these other countries. Sorry.
Do you think that the UK-US relationship will improve with a new Prime Minister? How do you view that relationship?
I think that the relationship between the United States and the UK has told the test of time, regardless of who is in power. That there's something more important than just the person that's at the head, that we share these Judeo-Christian values, we value freedom, we've been there for each other. You know, there's been no nation that's been a better ally to America than the UK has, so I think we'll be there through thick and thin.
I want to talk about Biden's health. I know you have a background in medicine. How do you assess Biden's health today?
That he's in steep cognitive decline. So I am a physician. Even just the way he walks last fall compared to today is a drastic change. That he walks rather than heel first and then toe. He's now walking where his toes hit the ground first. And that's one of the signs of Parkinson's advancing. For 2 years, I was fearful that he had Parkinson's. I don't know if he does or doesn't, but I think Americans deserve to know that about a person that they're voting for as far as the next president. I think we see him in a steep cognitive decline. I think the shock to me is that the Democrat Party, the family let him go through with that debate. The shock to me is the left national media suddenly waking up and saying, my gosh, the emperor doesn't have any clothes right now. That's the shock to me, because I think we've all seen it. You have to be a doctor to see his cognitive decline, his physical decline over the last 3 years, but I'm afraid it's accelerating now, and I'm very, very scared for his health and scared for this nation with him as the commander-in-chief.
Do you think the White House needs to be more transparent about his health issues?
Absolutely. So the White House is absolutely lying to us. Just recently we found out that a Parkinson's doctor, a neurologist, subspecialist in Parkinson's, has been in the White House 8 times. Now, we don't know who he's seeing, but this subspecialist typically doesn't make any type of house calls. And if the president has nothing to hide, then they should come forward. Show us his CAT scans, his MRIs. He needs a dopamine scan. In as much as we need to know his physical function, we need to know what his cognitive abilities are. You know, I think some type of cognitive test is just really the tip of the iceberg, what America deserves to see. But I think that we see the White House just not being hiding things, but they're absolutely lying to us as well.
As a Republican, would you like to see Joe Biden as the Democratic candidate in November?
Yeah, you know, I don't think I get to make that choice. I think that their challenge today is they don't have anybody better. They have no bench to go to. If you think about the folks that they're considering replacing him with, politically, they are far left of Joe Biden. Joe Biden ran as a moderate. Of course, he's governed as a progressive, but the folks behind him, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, they're both big government progressives, liberal progressives at that. And America doesn't like their policies. They both poll worse than Joe Biden does, so I don't really care. I think that America is going to reject whoever the Democrats put up. It's about their policies. You never hear anybody from the Democrat Party say, we're going to secure the border. No matter what, we're going to secure the border. No matter what, we're going to bring inflation down. We're going to set American energy free, which will bring down the price of gasoline. And that impacts so many other issues as well. The other driver of inflation is the amount of money that they're borrowing. Kamala Harris has promised she's going to raise her taxes. She's going to spend, borrow money. All that's going to raise interest rates and inflation. So America is rejecting not only Joe Biden, but also these radical, progressive, big government policies.
Is communism a major threat to America today?
I don't know that the communists in the sense of the Cold War communism, I think that, like I said before, the national security is our number one threat. Our national debt is our number one threat to national security. I think the CCP is the biggest long-term authoritarian threat to the United States, and how we see this axis of evil working together. Putin, the CCP, Iran, North Korea working together. I'm much more concerned about biosecurity. I'm much more concerned about cyber attacks. I'm concerned about the intellectual property theft that those rogue nations and as well as these authoritarian dictatorships are doing as well. So for me to say, even the word communism, socialism, these words change so much through the years, but certainly the CCP is a threat to America.
What about the rise of the far left in America domestically?
Yeah. I think that I'm probably even more concerned about ourselves right now, that we need to look in a mirror and people, to jump to solutions. I think the first solution is to look in the mirror. We don't need some new rocket science plan that this country needs to fall on our knees and say we've fallen short. We've gotten away from our traditional values. I talk about the values that are important to me: faith and family, community, education, hard work, rewarding innovation. We need to go back to those basics. And absolutely, the far left is a threat to those. I think there is a battle for the soul of this nation. It's no longer, the Democrat Party is no longer Bill Clinton's Democrat Party, let alone JFK's Democrat Party. They are now woke, they're progressive, they're far left. They've not seen a government program that they haven't liked.
And just finally, are you concerned that the Democrats are going to try and steal the election in November?
My hope is that the states have tightened up more and more of their election laws. My hope is that every state follows their own constitution and follows their own state laws. I'm very optimistic. I know that this time around there's several organizations across the country that are there to ensure a fair and free election, that integrity is maintained. So I'm optimistic and hopeful.
Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yep.